Hey everybody. Well, today I'm going to be working on a little project here. In a previous video, I showed one of these Galaxy's Edge lightsabers. They're legacy lightsabers that you can get from Disneyland and Disney World exclusively, I believe. And when you get these things, they come in these beautiful cases. I mean, you can see how wonderful this thing looks. It's got some really nice, like these little checkerboard square kind of patterns in here. It's got the Alliance logo on the front here, and you also got the lines up here, and I really like the side here. Look at how this looks. That looks really cool. This thing is begging to be dirtied up and beaten up and worn and weathered like everything else that is Star Wars. Everything kind of has that worn look to it. I definitely want to do that on this because this is looking too clean. You just push this button to open this, and then the beautiful lightsabers on the inside. Of course, I will not be leaving this in here. I'm going to have to take this out. And man, that thing's heavy too. And then on the inside here, you'll notice that we have this black cloth in here just to make it look nice. Now, this is just nothing more than a piece of vacuum plastic that's in here. So let me take this out, because I'm going to have to take this out in order to paint this. So yeah, here it's just the cloth, but you can see here it's just vacuum plastic on there, and it's got elastic around the cloth to hold that in. Yeah, that's all that actually is. And then you can also see that there's just these pieces of styrofoam in here. So we'll be taking all of this out because I want to paint this, and I don't want to get all this stuff messed up. Inside here, you can see it's actually just a hollow box. Now I'm not going to paint anything down in here. Of course, you're not going to see it. I do want to keep the cloth and stuff that's in there. You'll probably see a little bit of this on the edge, and you'll probably see a little bit of the lid. Now the sponge right here, it's glued in. It's not going to come out, so I'm going to probably have to mask that. But anyway, yeah, so what I think I want to do with this, here's the bottom, by the way. It's just got some stickers on here. So the first thing I'm not going to worry about these stickers, because I'm going to probably put some black felt on here just to make it softer. Even though the whole thing's going to look dirty, I just want some felt on there. But what I'm going to do is I will spray this down with a primer, and then after that, I'll try to find some paint that's the same color as this. I may as well keep it the dark gray color that it is. And then I'll give it a few coats of that gray, and then I will put a gloss coat on it so that I can put some panel line paint that's going to bring out all these little details all over. And then I am going to dull coat it, and then I'm going to use pastels to make it look all dirtied and weathered up. So I'll show you how I do all of that once I get everything all set up. Okay, so I was going to pull these foam pads off and just re-glue them, but they are glued in there really tight. So I just went ahead and masked them off. So those are both done. And then I also went ahead and masked the emblem on the front so I don't paint over that. All right, so now we're ready for some primering. All right, so I got about 3 or 4 coats of primer on here. I just used some Krylon black primer. So everything's covered. I didn't really worry about the bottom. Like I said, I'm just going to cover that. And then, yeah, so everything's all primered now. And I did a little bit of the inside too, which is hard to open this one-handed. But anyway, so the color I ended up finding is going to be this. It's Krylon. It's kind of like definitely a lighter gray than what the box was. But I think this will work out better because it'll show the weathering on all of this areas better, just to make it show up better, because that dark color, it's going to be hard to make it stand out. And so this is just some Krylon Fusion. It's a paint and primer. Now this is a gloss, but I'm going to be spraying it with a dull coat anyway, so it's not going to matter. Yeah. All right, so we'll put a few coats of that on there. All right, so I put about 3 coats of the Krylon gray paint on here, and I got to say this actually looks pretty good. I'm glad I went with this lighter color. I think it's going to show the weathering a lot better. So even though that's a gloss paint, I'm going to put a few coats of this Tester's gloss coat on here, because the next step after that will be using that panel line paint to bring all these details out. And when you remove the excess panel line paint, you need a layer of protection so that you don't accidentally wipe off the paint underneath. So that will be the next step. Okay, so I've got this thing completely gloss coated now. There's about 3 layers. You can see how shiny that is now. So yes, so that's ready to go. So you've seen me use this stuff before. It's Tamiya Panaline paint. It's like this really liquidy paint right here. Well, this one needs to be mixed up a little bit, but there's brown and then there's black, and I'm for sure going to use the black on here. I think I might try a little bit of brown just to see if it, adds a little bit of a dirty effect to it. But that's the whole point of putting that gloss coat on, so you can get that stuff to ooze into these corners, and especially in the detail like that. So I'll show you what that looks like when you're applying it. Okay, so for those unfamiliar with this Tamiya Panaline paint, so this stuff is fantastic. It's a very liquidy, inky type of paint, and you have to really shake it up to make sure it's all mixed up properly. So I'll show you how this works. So the lid actually has a very fine brush on it right there. See that? And so what you do is it uses capillary action. So any of these corners where you would see dirt buildup, like say right here, you'll put a little bit of a drop right here, and you'll see it kind of drip down. And that's why you want to do that gloss coat, because it helps make this ooze a little bit better. And you can put as much of it as you want, or a little of it as you want, and and it gets a little sloppy, like here you can see, but I'll show you how to clean up all of that. But this helps get, like, it kind of shows you how to get the dirt in those corners like that. You can see I did some over here already. Looks like I could probably use a little bit more over here in this corner. Yeah, and I'll probably put a heavier coat in here. It's just really hard to do this on camera and watch what I'm doing without getting it out of camera range here. So yeah, it's going to make a little bit of a mess. But here, let me see. We'll put some over here. Now this usually works better on like spaceship models where there's a lot of greeblies and stuff. This doesn't have a whole lot of greebling going on, but you can really see how that's oozing its way down there. So that's what I love about this stuff. It's really cool. See how it went around that corner right there? And now it's working its way over here. Yeah, just let gravity work, do its thing. And here, let me get a little bit more of this. You can do it on this corner right here. And they have brown as well. But yeah, see, it works really good. And it'll just start working its way in. At all these little corners here, you can do this on everything. I mean, it's like, just let it work its way in there. And I'll show you how to clean up this mess. It's hard for me to... I'm being a little messier with it than I normally am because I'm trying to do this on camera here, which isn't the easiest. But you can even kind of just paint it in there if you want to. Yeah, so let me work my way around this whole thing, and then I'll show you what it looks like and how to clean up the excess off of there. Okay, so I've got the whole thing Panaline painted here. So you can see how that really brings out the details. So it looks like a bit of a mess, but that's okay. I mean, it's supposed to look messy anyway. But so you want to clean up, all the excess that you see on here. So actually, let's go this way, because see, there's a lot right there. So now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I think some people use mineral spirits, but I use good old-fashioned Zippo lighter fluid. So this stuff works pretty good. And it's you can find it a lot easier. So I just take a Q-tip and I just pour a little bit on here like this, and just kind of soak it in there. And then it just takes this stuff off. Now you don't want to rub this stuff really hard. Let me see if I can do it without a reflection here. So you don't want to rub this really hard, but see how it just takes it right off? There's kind of a lot right there. And you'll go through a lot of Q-tips. But you don't want to rub really hard because you don't want to rub through the clear coat that's on there. But see how that's really cleaning up that little edge? It brings out that grill work that's on there. So yeah, it does a really good job of getting that off of there, as you can see. And you can take off, if you take off too much, you can always just put some more of the Panaline paint on there. But it really helps kind of make it look like, keeps the dirt down inside there like that. So yeah, I mean, you can just kind of keep on working at this. And you have to work around the whole thing. So yeah, I will keep on working on this, and I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for the next step. Okay, so I didn't take off as much as I thought I was going to, because I really like the way this looks, especially up here. This turned out really good. Let me tip this. So yeah, you can really see how good that looks. So I took a little bit out of the center, so that way, it stays in the corners. Let it, like a big chunk of it right there. That's good. Makes it look nice and dirty. Over here, all these little, I don't know what you'd call those little rectangle shapes. So yeah, I mean, this does a really good job of getting in all those little areas right there. You can kind of see. So yeah, and then on this side here, you can see I took off just enough to, you know, just to make sure that the corners are filled. So I still want to make this look even dirtier. So the next step now is I want to start using pastels all over this. Some people would use airbrushes, but I like pastels just because I tend to have a little more control over, you know, where it goes. So now I got to spray this whole thing down with some dull coat. That way the pastels have something to grip onto because this is way too slick and shiny now. So I do want to give out a big, huge shout out to the channel, the YouTube channel Trekworks. Boyd is the host of that channel. He's awesome. Oh my gosh, his model building skills are amazing. And so I usually use Tester's dull coat on this stuff, which here I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so this is the Tester's dull coat. And you've seen me use this before. But you know, the problem with this is it's becoming really hard to find. The hobby shops aren't carrying them. I tried ordering this on Amazon, and they mistakenly sent me about 4 or 5 cans of the gloss instead, and because they had it mislabeled on the package for the barcode. So yeah, so it's really hard to find this stuff. So I was talking to Boyd on the Trekworks channel, and he said he recommended to use this stuff. This is Duplicolor Wheel Matte Clear Coat. So I've never tried this before, but I'm certainly going to try it because he knows his stuff. And so, yeah, I think I'm going to definitely try it. Plus, this is, I can't remember how much it was, but it's way cheaper than, you know, these little cans that don't last very long. I guess I was talking to the guy at the hobby shop, and he said that the reason this is becoming hard to get is because this company was bought out by Rust-Oleum, and they just are not putting any kind of emphasis in their model paints. They're more interested in their big can paints, and they just can't get this stuff in. And I've noticed a lot of their racks are empty where the Rust-Oleum paints are concerned. But like I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of Rust-Oleum paint anyway, so if they took over this stuff, I hope they don't change the formula of it if they ever get it back in stock. So yeah, this is really hard to find. So I'm going to try this and see how it works. So let me get a few coats of that on here, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I just put 2 coats of that Duplicolor matte finish on here. Now it's still got some shine to it, but it's not nearly as shiny. When I put more coats on here, it'll get rid of pretty much most of that shine. I needed it mainly to just give the pastels something to grip onto once I start putting them on here. But yeah, that worked great. So thank you, Boyd. If you're watching, if you guys are interested in models, you got to check out the Trekworks channel. He does amazing work on that channel. I have been subscribed to Boyd for many, many years. And in fact, he actually got me back into modeling. So thank you, Boyd. If you're watching out there, thank you, man. All right, so I guess we're going to get ready to do the pastels now. Okay, so all I do for this is I just take some artist chalk like this and a hobby knife, and I just scrape it, like just keep on going like this, and you can see it makes this powder. Now I've just got a little piece of chalk here, but I got more. So you want to scrape off more than you think you're going to use, because this stuff obviously is messy. It makes a mess, so you want to scrape off a whole bunch, and then that's what I use. I also have these earth tone kind of browns, so I might use some of this, maybe this dark brown possibly, for more dirt marks on that box. So yeah, that's how I just get that. It's really simple. It's not much to it. Okay, so you've seen me use this brush before. It's like an angled liner brush. You can find it in the cosmetic section of your local grocery store. What I like about it is it's really narrow, like you can see there, and it's got an angle. And it's by a company called Wet n Wild. I've shown this before in previous videos. And I think they're $1. They're really cheap. So all I do is just kind of dip the brush here in a little bit of this chalk here. And then we just kind of start getting into the corners like this. And we'll just start kind of weathering it. Even though the paneling paint is in there, this will really help kind of bring that out. And you know, you can really make it dark. Since this box is going to be pretty dirty, I'm not going to worry about you know, going overboard on it. Get down in these corners here. And this brush is perfect because of the shape of it, it really gets down in there. And then you can kind of, bring this out. Let me see if I can get a better view. It's hard to do this while filming this, but and you can kind of, bring it out like this, but really rub it in there. And then just work a little area at a time. Like I'll probably work this whole front section and maybe over here and maybe over here too. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. And then spray it down with some more of that matte coat or dull coat. That way you lock it in and you don't accidentally touch it and wipe it off. And whatever you do, don't sneeze and blow all that stuff all over the place. Okay, so it's several hours later now, and so I do love weathering stuff like this, but it is kind of time consuming, and after a while, your eyes start to kind of go goggle-eyed after a while. But anyway, I'm liking how it's looking so far. I decided to add some dripping because it just makes it look really cool. Makes it look like maybe it's been sitting out in the rain for a little while or a long while, but you can kind of see how all of this has turned out. And yeah, I really like it. It's that brush does a really good job of getting in those corners like that. And I haven't worked on the top yet. Oh, well, a little bit right there. Let me show you the back of it. So this is the back side now, and you can see there's more dripping. I really like these rectangular things. It really kind of opens up your imagination on what you can do with that. And the dripping I think looks kind of cool the way it turned out. Back here as well, and just a little more dripping going on, and then down here. And let me see, let me show you the side if I can get a grip of this. There we go, a little bit on that side, and the same thing over here as well. And so yeah, let's see, I guess I can show you. I did a little bit on the inside. I didn't go too crazy on the inside. And here's the inside. I wasn't going to go quite this crazy on the weathering. It's easy to get carried away with this stuff, let me tell you. But I decided to just kind of go ahead and do it anyway. So I only went that far down because once you put that that insert back in here, you're not going to see any of that. I didn't really do too much over here. I might do a little sponging technique over here because this drags on here and it's going to scrape that away. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if it's going to start scraping the paint. This particular box has a hard time opening. It catches on something, and I'm kind of always having to kind of struggle with it to open and close it. But yeah, we'll do a little bit of something on that side. I can't remember how high that stuff comes up. I think it's right about here. So yeah, but that looks pretty good too. So let's see, what's the next step? I think I'm going to do some sponging on this now. So in order to kind of cover some more of these areas that are kind of wide open, I just use sponge. Just take a cheap dollar store sponge. It's one of these scrubbers. I used this side of it, but now that I'm looking at it, I wonder what kind of look that would give. I may have to try that. So, I just take this stuff. I have the brown here for when I use brown color, and then black. So I'll just dip it in here, and then I'll start kind of putting it on here. So let me see. Well, I guess I can. Well, I'm not sure I want to start this yet. It's getting pretty late, and I don't want to leave it on. Well, let's try it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a little bit of this in here. And let's see, where do I want to do it? Let's try it over here because it's a little kind of plain. And we'll just put a little bit on here. You can go a little bit crazier with this if you want to. But we'll see. I'll probably end up putting quite a bit of this on because I do want this to look pretty dirty. But you can kind of see it just kind of leaves a little bit of, it just makes it look, I mean, it's a little spotty right there, but I'm going to have to probably do a little bit of like touching up here. But yeah, I'll have to experiment with this and see how this is going to look. Fortunately, you can just wipe it off if you don't like it. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of adds a little more dirt to it in those wide open areas. And I decided not to use the brown because, I don't know, I think I'm going to stick with the black. It just looks better. I think the brown is going to make it look a little weird for some reason. I'm just kind of thinking I like the black and gray, so I'm going to stick with that. All right, well, let's see how the sponging goes. Okay, so before I show you the big reveal of this, I do want to put some felt on the bottom. This will be the final step. I know that's what the whole thing is really dirty, but I just kind of want the bottom to have a softer bottom because, you know, picking it up and putting it on a shelf or whatever, it's gonna, if I ever painted this, it's just gonna scrape off over time. So I'd rather have something soft for the shelf as well. So this is just a sheet of felt that I got at Hobby Lobby for 79 cents. They're really cheap. They got all kinds of different colors. This one's not going to be quite long enough, but I have this extra piece left over from a previous project that I can just kind of continue right there. And then I'm just going to glue it on with good old Elmer's glue. All right, so after that, I should be able to show you what it looks like when it's all done. Before and after. Yes, I'm done. I am done. So this is hours of work, but I think it turned out pretty good. I am really pleased with the way this turned out. I mean, this thing, it looks way different than what it looked like. I mean, you saw the before and after pictures there, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing what some weathering will do on this and painting. I'm really glad I went with this lighter gray color. It really does bring out the weathering a lot better. You can see it a lot more. I think if I had gone with a darker color, you definitely wouldn't see this as much. And so I think it looks really good. So let me get some close-ups of it. Okay, so I will mention first off that this is a little shinier. See if I get the light reflection. See how that reflects? It's a little shinier than I would have liked. The dull coat, the tester's dull coat, would have not had any shine at all because it's really a heavy lacquer that goes on there. And the reason I chose to not... So what I was thinking about doing is after putting on this Duplicolor matte clear, that wheel matte clear, I was going to put a layer of dull coat on top of this and maybe even just a light coat. But the problem with dull coat is it does have a tendency to react with certain paints, and I don't know how it would react to this Duplicolor. It may have a bad reaction, and after going through all this work, there was no way that I was going to take the chance. So I'm fine with the shine that it does have, and I'm really glad that this stuff actually worked. So thanks again to Boyd from Trekworks for letting me know about that Duplicolor matte clear coat, because that worked really good for this project. But now you can actually see, you know, as we get closer here, you can just kind of see, you know, I kind of showed you some of this earlier, but once you get the final dirtiness on there, it really helps bring this out. I mean, that really looks really cool. So that panel line paint is in there and it makes that look all nice and grungy. That's kind of, you know, the initial way of getting that started. And the dripping, I really like that dripping. I think that really enhanced those little, they almost look like vents or something. And then on the edge here, I just decided to kind of go ahead and just dirty it up on the edge. I figure, you know, I don't know, just to kind of bring out some kind of a difference, to break it up a little bit. Down here, you can see what's going on there. More dripping off of those little square things. Now this thing, the emblem there, I was thinking about dirtying that up too, but after I took the masking tape off, I don't know, I kind of figured I just really didn't want to ruin it because it looks really nice. And I figure in the real world, you know, you're always pushing this to open this, and so your finger would constantly be, you know, touching it and wiping any dirt off, so it would probably be the cleanest part of the whole thing. So that was kind of my thinking there, whether if it actually makes sense or not. But so that's what this is over here. Now on this side here, we can see that we got some nice dirtiness as well. Let me get some light over here so you can really see. Yeah, I mean, that really looks cool. I did a little bit of dripping on there too. You know, you have to kind of break it up just a little bit, just so you have some kind of differences going on. And the pan line paint, I'm kind of glad I didn't clean it completely up. Having those blotches in there makes it look like there's oil or something on there, so I really like that. So yeah, I'm glad I went with that look. And then here's the back. So it has, you know, relatively the same thing. I made the drip marks a little bit longer on the back. But yeah, I really like it. That sponging technique really kind of helps fill in all these, you know, more wide areas. I'm glad I didn't go with the brown. I think, you know, well, the brown may have been okay. I mean, I don't know. It may have been okay to get some brown maybe in these areas. It almost looks a little brown sometimes when you look at it. But I'm kind of glad I didn't use it. This here was a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. This little drip, I kind of liked it, and I just went ahead and left it in there. It was like some extra excess panel line paint that dripped in there, and I thought, yeah, actually, that looks kind of good. It looks like grease in there as well. So sometimes you do have happy accidents on these kind of things. And then here's the other side here. It looks pretty much the same as the other one, but this one's just a little bit dirtier. But yeah, so this was really fun to do, I gotta say. This was a really fun project. I love doing weathering on model kits, and on something like this worked out really, really good. So I'm glad it turned out all right. So on the inside here, I decided not to go too crazy with this as far as the weathering goes. I mean, you can kind of see some of the shading that's going on over here, and I got a little bit of dirtiness going on over here, but you know, the inside would have been more clean than the outside because of course it's not going to get as much dirt. But I did want to make it look like, you know, it had some kind of realism to it. Masking these off was, you know, good. It kept these from getting any gunk on them, and they definitely are needed. You need to have those to hold the lightsaber in. But yeah, I'd say that the interior was just fine. You don't have to do too much with that, thank goodness. So there we go, the Galaxy's Edge Legacy Lightsaber case, all weathered up. So if you have one of these, or you're thinking about getting one of these lightsabers, first of all, the lightsabers are really awesome. I love it. And secondly, these cases are amazing. I really like it. I mean, they look good just in themselves, but they are begging for some kind of weathering like this. So hopefully this tutorial will help you in deciding what to do with yours. I mean, you don't have to go as crazy as I did with this. You can just maybe do a much lighter weathering than I did here. And there's always different ways of doing it. I mean, you could use an airbrush to do a lot of this stuff, but like I said, I do pastels because I don't have an airbrush, and also because I just have more control about where lines can go and stuff. And you can always wipe it off if you don't like what you did. Well, for the most part, not it doesn't always come off, but yeah. So I hope you found this video fun and helpful, and it was a lot of fun to do this. I got to say, it was a great project. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I very much appreciate it, and please give the video a like, and also subscribe if you'd like as well. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, and have a good one.